that are going to.
Go ahead, Ginny.
We've got two speakers today who are going to inform us about this new AAUW public policy project called the School Board Project. For those of you who don't recognize Kathy Harper, she's on your screen. She has been a director on a state board for the past 6 years. For the past 5 years, she's been director of our public policy, a great leader, I must say. I'm on that committee and have been, and I've never worked so hard in my life, Kathy. So, you know, I'm looking for a reprieve with the new guys, but maybe not, maybe not.
Don't say that, Ginny. We're trying to recruit. We don't want to scare people away.
Okay. Well, I think you already have. I think you already have. People are lining up, I think. Kathy's currently a member of the California Online Branch and a past member of the Carlsbad Oceanside Vista and Big Bear Valley branches. She was a prosecutor for Orange County for 25 years and CEO of a domestic violence shelter program for 10 years. So she knows wherein she speaks. And I must say her legal mind has been very helpful to our deliberations in public policy over the years. Our second speaker is a young man who's probably in the minority in this thing, because I think you're the only guy who's probably on this particular webinar. His name is Samuel Turley. He's a civic engagement associate with Equality California. He's located in Palm Springs. And in this position, he focuses on recruiting volunteers, organizing events, and taking action to support Equality California's endorsed candidates. Before joining Equality California, he worked for a member of the California State Assembly as a field representative and a case manager. And I can relate to both of those, having done those myself on various levels of government. He meets with local organizations. He assists constituents with state agencies, and just make sure that the people that his boss represents are well taken care of. He received his BA in political science from Long Beach State. So I'm going to let Kathy and Samuel take it away and inform you of our new project.
Thank you so much, Ginny. And in just a second, I'm going to share my screen with you and pull up my PowerPoint presentation. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you so much to Ginny and to Deanna and to the LAIBC. I appreciate, first of all, your interest in this topic sufficient to invite me and Samuel to come and talk with your group about it. But even on top of that, I really appreciate that you gave me the opportunity to extend the invitation to all of the public policy chairs of all of our branches throughout California. We have been talking since we started this partnership with Equality California, we've been talking about trying to get a webinar together before the end of the fiscal year, because I know all our branches, most of our branches go into hiatus in July and August. And as Sam will talk to you in a few minutes about recruiting members, they want to be up and running by October or November. And so I was afraid that we wouldn't have an opportunity to get this out to this information out to everyone if we didn't do it until September. But as it turned out, just through a series of happenings, we couldn't get it ready for all of membership by the end of June. And then all of a sudden along came this invitation from LAIBC, from Ginny. Hey, can you do this presentation on June 23rd or June 25th? And I said, absolutely. And by the way, can I invite the rest of California to join in? So we decided we'll make this our webinar that we weren't able to get going with membership. So thank you again. I appreciate it. And just so everyone knows, this will be recorded. If you have branch members that you know of who wanted to listen in today and weren't able to, it will be available. Once I get the recording from Deanna, it will be posted on the public policy website. Okay, so with that, so as hang on one quick second, I need to get rid of all this stuff. Oops, where did you go? All right, so as Ginny pointed out, this project is called the School Board Project, not very very sexy or exciting, but it certainly says everything that needs to be said about what we are about to engage in. And what we're going to be talking about today is what this project consists of, and a couple of other things as well. And here's your presenters for the day. Nice introductions. Thank you so much, Jenny. And here's a little agenda of what we're going to be covering. So we're going to talk, first of all, we're going to give you an overview of what exactly the issue is. And I will start out and I'll talk just kind of a very broad overview. And then I'll turn it over to Samuel, and he'll tell you a little bit about Equality California itself. And then he'll elaborate on what the issue is from their standpoint. And then we'll both kind of wrap it up by talking more specifically about how can AUW California members get involved? How can we help? Okay. So what is the issue? We're going to be talking about the problem that we're all very tuned into, as Jenny explained to all of us in her introduction, about book bans. And not just that, it's more than just book bans, but this is what I had some actual numbers on. But it's book bans as well as the censorship of curriculum, telling teachers and school districts, the politicians telling teachers and school districts what they can and cannot teach, what's acceptable and not acceptable. And I just wanted to kind of start off with this to give you the breadth of the problem and what we're talking about here in the United States. So here's some book bans by the numbers. So far, 26 states have instituted banning of books in schools and school libraries. That has implicated at least 86 different school districts and over 1,100 books that have been tagged for banning or possible or future banning. So I had to smile when Jenny was talking about the headlines, because that's exactly where my head was going. And this is, the headlines tell the story. And we're talking about what exactly is the issue and how big is it. So I've just pulled out a series. I went online and just pulled out a series of different headlines that have been coming out over the last couple of months, 6 months or so. So here's one from Florida. 350 plus books banned in Florida school districts since last July. And I added this little blurb because I thought this was interesting as well. Approximately 41% of the banned books featured LGBTQ themes, main characters, or significant supporting characters. And characters of color made up 40% of the main or significant secondary characters, while 21% of the titles dealt with racial and racist topics. So that's 350 in Florida. How about Texas? Texas Senate passes bill removing Martin Luther King and suffrage from required curriculum. Again, a little blurb. The bill also removes requirements to teach that white supremacy and the Ku Klux Klan are morally wrong. Removes requirements to teach that. And prior to this ban, teachers were required to teach that these things were morally wrong. No more in Texas. Here's one from Iowa, from Des Moines. Governor Reynolds signs law banning LGBTQ instruction, school books that aren't age appropriate. And those are just some samples from across the United States. And it's easy for us to get complacent and think that this isn't a problem in good old blue liberal California. But if we are all watching the headlines, as I know we all do, because we're all educated, smart, thinking men and women. And Joe, I saw your hand go up. So yes, I want to recognize that we do have one man with us, and welcome, and we're glad to have you. We're all very much aware of what's going on. So sorry, got off a little bit. So we are aware that in fact it is happening in California. And as again, Jenny pointed out, and Sina earlier pointed out some of the issues right here surrounding us. Here's a picture from a demonstration as parents rally outside a Glendale Unified School District Board of Education meeting just just last week in Glendale, right there in your neck of the woods, LAIBC. Sina was talking about what's going on in Temecula. Temecula school board meeting erupts in chaos, forcing law enforcement to step in. This again, just from earlier this month. Temecula Valley School Board's recent meeting erupted in chaos, with parents and teachers screaming while discussing the board's previous month's decision to ban a social studies book that talked about gay rights activist Harvey Milk. For some reason, I wasn't able to import that picture, but it did indeed show parents outside of the school board meeting screaming at each other. So let's take a quick look at how did we get here. This isn't a new issue. We were all talking earlier about the fact that this is something that rears its ugly head every once in a while. But our current issue has sort of started with this group, and there are a lot more out there like Moms for Liberty. But this is one of the more prominent groups that is sort of instigating all of this. And it really grew out of the COVID era, when parents groups were rising up against mandatory masking of their children in schools. And that's how Moms for Liberty started, and they've grown from there. And Samuel's going to talk about that quite a bit in his portion of the presentation as well. But I think it's really important that when we're looking at the overview of why is it happening now and how did we get here, it's important to recognize that this is kind of where it came from. Here's an article from Vice in April of this year talking about Moms for Liberty. Since the group's founding in Florida in 2020, its influence over local and national Republican politics has grown exponentially. It's now a nationwide movement with 260 chapters that claim to be grassroots group working to protect students, quote unquote, and defend parents' rights. The reason this blurb doesn't have it in quotes, but the reason I put it in air quotes is because that's really the banner that they're operating under ostensibly, is that all of this is to protect students and to defend parents' rights. Its members are leading the charge on book banning campaigns across the country, and the group says, and here's where I have outlined this portion in yellow. It has helped install 275 of its favored candidates on school boards in 2022 alone. So this is a huge, huge issue that the way that they're managing to achieve their goals of so-called protecting students is by making sure that they have their candidates installed on school boards who can vote on making these things happen. That includes dozens of whom don't even have any children attending public schools in their districts. And in the category of we think it couldn't happen here, it has come home to roost right here in, right here in my county. I've just recently moved to beautiful Cambria in San Luis Obispo County, and I find this headline, Moms for Liberty. Darn it, sorry, I'm just trying to move that down a little bit. Moms for Liberty established their first California chapter right here in San Luis Obispo County. Locally, a group of moms have joined Moms for Liberty, launched in January 2021 by two moms, both school board members in Florida. This is a nonprofit, nonpartisan group promoting, again, quote, a return to power to the parents and the freedoms to choose in what manner their children will be educated. There are now more than 20 new Moms for Liberty chapters across the country. The first, as I said, California chapter right here in San Luis Obispo County. And here's what they're looking for, is more interested local moms to start subcommittees, attend school board meetings, meet with board members, and work toward getting the word out that parents truly can have a say and a choice in how their children are educated. This is how they are framing the issue. So what can we do about it? We are AAUW members. We don't sit around wringing our hands and crying over spilled milk. We find ways to look at an issue that is absolutely contrary to our mission and our goals and our public policy priorities, and to figure out what can we do about it. So that's why we're here today. And we have decided to join up with this organization, Equality California, to engage in this joint project to see how we can prevent this from spreading and becoming an even bigger problem right here in our beautiful state of California. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to turn the presentation over to Samuel, and he is going to talk about who Equality California is and what they're hoping to accomplish. And then he and I will jointly talk about how AUW can help. So Sam, at this time, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you to Ginny and Deanna too for putting this all together, and for the entire AAUW for partnering with Equality California. So I'm just going to start by going into about what Equality California is, who we are. So we really got our roots started about 20 years ago. Our primary goal was to establish marriage equality statewide in California, which we eventually accomplished in 2008. Unfortunately, that was changed with the passage of Proposition 8. But that's where we got our roots in the fight for same-sex marriage and same-sex equality. We've more recently, we've also switched to a legislative approach. So we worked with the legislature to pass some of the strongest statewide civil rights protections for LGBTQ plus people in the country. We've also helped to elect hundreds of pro-equality candidates to office up and down the ballot. And we've really worked to establish a robust bench of LGBTQ plus and allied leaders that champion our cause. So we've really worked on kind of growing the pipeline of LGBTQ leadership in the state. So I want to turn it over now to kind of like the current parental rights movement. As Sina and all of us were talking about earlier, this is nothing new. We're just seeing the newest iteration of it. And through my research into this issue, a lot of academics point to this starting in the famous 1925 Tennessee case, where a teacher was fired for teaching evolution in schools. So, I mean, this is not a new movement. It's just the newest iteration. And what we've seen is that as Kathy pointed out, the COVID-19 pandemic really reinvigorated the movement. So a lot of these advocates for this movement, they've based their beliefs on the right that parents should have more say in educational policies. But what they really want are educational policies that align with their conservative, often religious values. So this isn't about parental rights, it's about aligning it with their specific ideology. So they've really worked to leverage that parental anxiety fueled by the pandemic. I mean, parents were struggling, the schools were closed, teachers were struggling with teaching on a new platform. And they used that to recruit and train candidates to then run for school boards in the 2022 election primarily. So why are they targeting school boards? So conservatives in California and in the wider California GOP, they've struggled to win state legislative seats in California and at the federal level. So they've shifted their focus to local school board races that normally go unchallenged. Now they do this so that they can build a bigger bench to hopefully then elevate those candidates to a state seat or a federal seat eventually. So last year we did kind of like a post-op of the 2022 elections, and we kind of like did a in-depth look at the parental rights victories that we saw across the state. Luckily we didn't see out of about 120 endorsed candidates, we saw about 40 of them win elections across the state. But they managed in two areas to flip they had particular success in Southwest Riverside, where they managed to flip both the Chino Valley Unified School District as well as the Temecula Valley Unified School District. Okay, so the Chino Valley Unified School Board, go to this. So I just want to go briefly into the Chino Valley Unified School District and the board, which is currently has this religious majority. So in Chino Valley, the current the person that really flipped the board was Sonja Shah. She was the president of Parental Advocates of Chino Valley, and she was elected last year in the 2022 election. So she's connected to a church in the area called the Calvary Chapel Megachurch. So this megachurch has been involved in local school board elections for decades now. So one of their members that is still on the board is James Nah, and he remains on that board, as well as Andrew Cruz and John Monroe. And just some of the policies that this board has introduced recently include at their most, let me go back here, at their most recent meeting during Pride Month, they introduced a measure and they voted 4-1 to ban pride flags in district classrooms. With its vote, the board updated their district's policies on ceremonies and observances limiting flags that teachers can display in their classrooms. This only allows for the California state flag and the the American flag to essentially be flown in classrooms, but it prohibits teachers from displaying any flags in support of the LGBTQ+ community. And that Sonja Shah, her comments on the matter were, if a teacher has to fly a flag in the classroom to show a kid this is a safe space, that is a teacher problem. So, I mean, just no complete disregard for teachers who are just trying to show that they are supportive of the LGBTQ+ community. And as we know, many students struggle in all levels with their sexuality and gender identity. And just showing that your teacher is in support can go a long way for many of these children. And another policy, this policy is a part of a larger movement. Assembly member Bill Lacaille, who introduced Assembly Bill 1314 in the California State Assembly, which would have required schools across the state to notify parents when a child identifies as transgender. So essentially outing the child to their parents. As we know, not every parent is going to be supportive or affirming of their child, and coming out is a deeply personal decision that the child deserves to make deserves to share that when they are ready with their parents. So they voted 4-1 to adopt that resolution, or sorry, apologies. They voted 4-1 to adopt a resolution supporting that legislation back in April. The bill never got a hearing because our pro-equality allies in the Education Committee were able to defeat that bill, and so it never received a hearing. Kind of moving on from this, so this, as this failed at the state level, this assembly member who represents this area pushed to have the school board reintroduce the measure as now a school board resolution, which they were going to take up at their most recent meeting in June, but unfortunately, it was tabled until next month. So what this proposed policy would do is it would require educators to tell their parents if a student is transgender. And this is the school board level, so that they've kind of co-opted the state law and are now trying to push it at the school board level. So the president of the Associated Chino Teachers said that the policies carry unknown consequences, noting that the district did not contact teachers about them until this week. So the week of voting on these measures is the first time teachers were even notified. She then said it was unknown that disciplinary steps would be taken by the district if a teacher violated the proposed rules, adding that the notification policy violates state law. As such, she said the policy would put teachers in a difficult position of choosing between following the district's rules or following state law. So it's further making our teachers' jobs already harder than they already are. So it's just adding an additional issue for a teacher to have to work through. Now I want to move on to Temecula Unified School District. So this is another school district that we've seen major issues, particularly with the involvement of yet another religious group in the area called the 412 Church. And they have formed the Inland Empire Family PAC, which is pushing for taking out any LGBTQ history, taking out any LGBTQ educational policies, and implementing a more religious doctrine. And what they have passed, what they've done is they've flipped the board. So two of their members won in the most recent election, and then one of their members, who's also affiliated with the Moms for Liberty, was also victorious. And at their very first school board meeting back in December, they voted to prohibit the teaching of critical race theory, which is not taught in any K through 12 institution in the country. They then, following the passage of that resolution, they hired Christopher Arend, who is a former board member in Cathy's County of San Luis Obispo County, unfortunately. Sorry, Cathy. So they hired him to lead seminars on the subject of critical race theory. And this workshop was described by the board president and members of the school board majority as meant to give the district teachers, staff, students, and parents an opportunity to discuss the key tenets of critical race theory with a panel of experts, including our end. After a Dion Harrison, a Black man, gave his comments in opposition, a white woman reportedly told him to get out of this country, to which he defended himself, and after a warning from President Kromsky, was then escorted out of the meeting while the white woman was allowed to stay in the meeting. They have further, at their most recent school board meeting in May, they voted 3-2 to reject an elementary school social studies book that contained information about Harvey Milk. And President Kromsky referred to Milk as a pedophile during this meeting, and which is a lie, and it's factually not true, which is led me, at that time was when I got involved and went to the following meeting where they voted to fire a 25-year veteran Superintendent Jody McClay, who was with the school district for nearly 3 decades as a teacher, an administrator, a principal, and then finally as superintendent, who helped reopen schools quickly, and they fired her without any cause. And I just want to say, going to this meeting was a real surreal experience, because I mean, I've been to school board meetings in the past, but this meeting, it felt so different. There was so many news vans. There was an army of police officers. You had to go through multiple checkpoints just to get into the school board meeting. And it was just a heavily secure experience. And then there was just hundreds and hundreds of people there in support of the superintendent. And I mean, a lot of these people coming in, some are parents in opposition, but a lot of them are these people that are traveling from school district to school district, you know, to support these hateful policies, just to show people that there's more in support when there's not. So moving on, I want to kind of mention some issues that you've experienced in your area that Cathy touched on, was around the North Hollywood incident. So police had to separate a heated protest and counter protest that was taking place outside of Saticoy Elementary School. And this was just because the school was having a Pride Month recognition ceremony on campus. The LA Unified School District has also unanimously approved a resolution this month encouraging all district schools to incorporate lessons on the LGBTQ+ community into their curriculum. This is an amazing step in the right direction. And they're also honoring June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and they're honoring October as LGBTQ+ History Month as well as October 11th as National Coming Out Day, and November 20th as Transgender Day of Remembrance. And then in Glendale, fortunately, Glendale has had several incidences. At their June 6th meeting, they had large demonstrations that turned violent over the school district's recognition of June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And then following at their most recent meeting only a few days ago, a large group of protesters and activists rallied again for the board's final meeting of the year. And this didn't even have any resolutions involving the LGBTQ plus community. They just, they were just there to show their opposition to the board and just to create chaos yet again. So I want to move into now. So now that you kind of have a better sense of the overall scope of this issue, and what we're really hoping for too is several of these school boards, while they didn't flip in the last election, several of them they had like in Lake Elsinore, Marietta, and other regions of the state, particularly in the suburbs of Sacramento. While we didn't see them take control of the boards, we saw 1 or 2 candidates win, meaning that in this cycle, they have the potential of flipping several more school boards. So this chaos that's happening in Temecula, Chino Valley, Glendale, North Hollywood, where there's not even real robust opposition on the boards to these ideas, or as opposed to Temecula and Chino Valley, where it's being driven by the boards, we could see several more of these start to spread across the state if they continue to take control of these boards. So what Equality California, what our school board project is hoping to do and how you can help is first is candidate recruitment and training. So we hope to partner with, so I think we'll do questions at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Sorry. Thank you, Gail. Starting with candidate recruitment and training. So what we're hoping to do is partner with national organizations with local memberships in the local LGBTQ plus progressive groups to identify strong candidates to run in school districts which have the potential to flip to an anti-LGBTQ plus majority. We hope to work with organizations to leverage their contact lists and relationships with leaders on the ground to ID strong candidates. We have a particular focus on candidates who are either educators or have an education background. Candidates whose ballot designation indicates education expertise and have a significant advantage in school board races are the ones we're primarily seeking. Plus, they would have the best knowledge and inner workings of how school districts operate. So once we've identified these candidates, the hope is to partner with organizations like the LGBTQ plus Victory Institute, where to have school board specific trainings to prepare these candidates for the unique challenge of running for a school board race in California. So these trainings can be shortened versions of existing candidate trainings to allow participants who are full-time employees or may have children at home to participate more easily, and for organizations to be able to deliver them more cost effectively. So Victory Institute has several training programs, and the hope is just to create a school board centered approach. And then following this, next we hope to support these candidates. So in their campaigns, we hope to partner with political organizations, including labor unions. We hope to create a PAC and to engage in targeted school board races through direct candidate contributions and independent expenditure campaigns. So this is a targeted approach, trying to make sure that our resources are spent in the best places. So with a particular focus on those school boards that are on the verge of flipping or have already flipped. Many districts don't have contribution limits. So in the Chino Valley, actually, this is an interesting connection to the Chino Valley race. In that race, there was a couple of local business owners in Chino Valley that actually donated $50,000 each to two of the the candidates running, and that managed to flip the board. So Sonja Shah received a $50,000 contribution, and so did the other victorious candidate in that race, who wasn't involved with the church, but he also voted in favor of a lot of these harmful policies. So it's mind-boggling that $50,000 would be donated in a school board race, but that's the reality we're living in. So this PAC could really, because that $25,000 to $50,000 can really go a long way in, flipping control or putting that candidate over the finish line. So targeting where we're spending this money is going to be really critical to ensuring that we keep these boards with a pro-equality majority and a pro-education majority. So Equality California is affiliated with over a dozen PACs, and we have extensive experience working in coalition with labor and advocacy groups on independent expenditure in California. We also are going to work with partner orgs to provide on-the-ground support to candidates through volunteers and organizational membership lists to turn out for candidate canvases and fundraisers, which is where you would be a very critical part. Getting members who are interested in canvassing or hosting fundraisers or attending fundraisers would be really critical. So our request to you is we hope to partner with you to leverage your existing membership throughout California to ID and recruit those pro-equality candidates for school board in rural and suburban areas of the state where we're mainly seeing this issue happen. This is really critical in to beginning the open line of communication to local leaders, informing them of the effort, and then also requesting individual meetings to discuss the problem and scope. So connecting with local leaders in your region to see kind of like what the issue is, like how big of an issue is it in your region? Have your local leaders started to notice this as an issue? And then just to kind of pivot now, that's the end of my remarks. I believe we can. I'll turn it back over to Kathy, but I believe I can answer any questions. And if I can't answer any questions, yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
We're going to hold off, Samuel. I just have a couple of wrap-up slides. I want to let everybody know you kind of brought us up to the point of how we can help, and I want to let everybody know what we've already done so far. And when I finish those slides, then we'll open it up to questions. So
sounds good.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much, Samuel. I hope everybody has a better understanding now of the scope of this and kind of why we're involved, but I'm just going to elaborate on that a little bit. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen with y'all, and oops. Okay. All right. So why are we involved at all? I think is a fair question that some of our members might have. And I want to take you back to the fall and early winter of 2022, when we sent out our survey concerning the upgrading of our public policy priorities. And when those came back at the end of January, we had an overwhelming response from our members that they wanted us to do something about this very problem that we're discussing today. Obviously, it was on a lot of our members' minds, and they wanted some kind of a policy statement from AUW California around this issue. So taking that input into advisement, the Public Policy Committee did in fact add this to our education pillar, and that is to support access to support access to diverse staff and curriculum that represents historically accurate information. So just about that time, coincidentally, I think in maybe a couple months after that, in March or April, right after membership voted on adopting this new public policy priority, we were in fact approached by Equality California through our advocate, Kathy Van Osten. They approached her and she brought it to me, and then I brought it to our committee. And they explained the project, and we said, this is just right up our alley because we just adopted this new public policy priority. It's what our membership wants. And yes, we want to be on board. We want to see how we can help. So what we did immediately is sent out a survey to all of the public policy chairs for all of our 119 branches up and down the state. And we wanted to find out a couple of things. We wanted to know, first of all, how many of our members were experiencing this as a current issue. And we saw this as a way of helping Equality California by letting them sort of pinpointing areas that we saw or that our members were seeing. So as Samuel said, they could know where to invest their resources. So we wanted to know, is this a current issue in your area where your branches or where you live in your school districts, or do you see this as being a possible issue in the future? And then we wanted to know, does it make sense for us to be involved? Do we have enough members who are interested in this and want to participate to make our involvement worthwhile? So that was a question that we wanted to know. And then with regard to the specific asks from Equality California, helping to recruit board members and possibly endorsing board members and attending school board meetings, how many were interested in that? So this is a little table summary of the results from our survey. So of all of we sent out to 119 public policy committees, and we received 72 responses. Those represented 58 branches because in some instances, some of the public policy chairs shared the survey with other branch members. And so we may have had multiple members from individual branches responding. So the responses represented 58, or almost one half of our membership responded. Those branches represented over 220 individual school districts. Of those, 19 said that it either was or they thought that it probably was a current issue. Another 29 said that they could foresee this becoming an issue in their district in the future. And this was really gratifying. We had almost everybody said that they either definitely wanted to help or that maybe they would be interested in helping. And what I'm hoping is that this lower number of 32 goes up significantly after today's presentation, because what I'm hoping is that people were saying, well, maybe but I really don't know very much about it. So maybe when I know more about what's expected of me or what the project is, then yes, maybe I would be interested in helping out. Excuse me. So that's out of the 58 responses we got, looks like everybody was either a yes or a maybe. So that was really gratifying. And thank you to all of you who have already participated in the survey and evidenced your willingness to help out. So with regard to the specific asks, 23 said yes and 31 said maybe that they would be willing to help recruit. And one of the questions that's on the survey, I didn't put it up here, but it was, do you know someone currently who you think might be a good candidate whose name we could pass on to Equality California? And 5 of our responders did in fact give us names and contact information. So we'll be passing that on to Equality California, and they will be contacting those potential candidates to assess them for whether or not there's someone that they want to put some resources into. And then we had a question of, would your branch be willing to endorse? As about half and half, about half of the responders said they weren't sure, they'd have to have a branch meeting or present it to their board. But 37 right off the top said yes, they felt that their branches would be willing to endorse the right candidate. And of course, I'm anticipating one of the questions I'm going to get is, well, I thought AEW doesn't endorse candidates. We don't endorse partisan candidates, but there is no prohibition against endorsing nonpartisan candidates. And almost all board elections are nonpartisan. Of course, if you're in a district where it is a partisan race, then you would not be able to endorse for sure. But if it's, as long as it's a nonpartisan race, If you've identified someone who you feel whose candidacy would support our mission and our values, then by all means, there's no prohibition against endorsing. And then we wanted to know about school board meetings, because this is really a critical piece of this, is getting our voices out there, using our influence as a megaphone to be heard in these different school districts. So we found out that 12 of our responders are currently attending district board meetings on a fairly regular basis. 25 of our responders says that, yes, they definitely would get involved now that they're more aware of this issue. And another 26 says that they might be willing to get involved. And then we ask a follow-up question: if you're willing to attend school board meetings, would you be willing to speak up when these issues got addressed on the floor? And most of our responders said that they would be willing to do so. So that the survey, we put an end date on the survey just because we wanted to get it moving along. We didn't want to drag it out, and we just wanted to get kind of an initial feel for what was going on with our membership. But we've left that survey open, and I'll put a link to it in the chat. If you have not responded yet, or you're aware that no one from your branch has responded yet, I would encourage you to go ahead and complete the survey, pull it up and complete the survey. We have, I check it a couple of times a week to take note of any additional information that we have, any additional input, and upgrade those numbers. And then finally, I just want to say that the final, not the final, but the next step is that sometime next month, we're still working on a date. The members from Equality California and the members from the AUW participants in our joint committee will meet to talk about next steps, and we'll share this information with them and get everything moving. And then for those of you who indicated in the survey that you want to be involved and you want to help, once we have some more concrete next steps that can be taken by membership, we'll be notifying all of you and saying, as Sam said, there's lots of volunteer opportunities out there, and we'll be presenting those to those of you who have said that you want to participate, and see how we can continue to help out. So with that, I am going to go ahead and open it up to questions, and you can ask questions of either myself or Sam. And I'm going to see, and I see your hand, but I'm going to start with Gail because she had a question before, and we put her off, so we'll let her go first. So make sure, if you have your hand up, make sure you remember to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Patrick. I mean, Samuel. I don't know where I got Patrick. Anyways, I live in Bishop, California, which is a little cowboy town in the Eastern Sierra. And it started here when they got somebody on the school board. The first thing he went after is sex education. We got that stopped. Before that, they went after people in town. The city council here had a tradition of having a prayer before the city council meetings. And we have an alliance of pastors who discriminate against pastors that are not, white Christian pastors. And they had a prayer because we were going to have, our first Pride event in Bishop last year. We had our second one this year, but they read this, which was supposed to be during a prayer, about how awful gay people were and pedophiles and all the stuff we've already heard, all the crap that they tried to say. And then now they're starting to go, they went after sex education, I think, and we beat them on that. They went after the prayers, we beat them on that. We got all the prayers eliminated, so they can't preach before city council. And now they're going to start going after books. So we have a group, but have you heard of Bishop, Samuel, and what's going on here?
No, I'm not aware. So this is great to help with tracking purposes and everything. So
yeah, look up Bishop, California. I can give you names later if you want them through Kathy, of who's organized.
it would be really helpful if you could complete the survey and put all that information in there, because that's
I
sort of
thought
what-
I did, but I will go for it. Maybe I didn't. I probably figured my public policy person did it. Thank you, Kathy. But I mean, this is not, it's coming and small. They like you said, Samuel, they like the smaller communities because they can find the people that think their way is the only way and the rest of us, you know, are horrible pedophile people. And I'm not saying, you know, I am a cisgender female, but I have so many friends that are not, and their lives are just important as mine. I'm sorry. So thank you for coming and talking to us. This is so important. We cannot let these people do what they're doing. And we've seen that at our school board meetings. They bring in these people that are rude and loud, and they don't even live here. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Gail. And don't ever apologize for being a friend and a supporter and an ally of marginalized groups.
Oh, I love everybody. You know, it's like, yeah.
All right. Thank you again.
I will
Go ahead,
also
Sam.
include my contact information in the chat afterwards. So if you want to email me more information, like I would love that.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks, Samuel. But if any of you do that, would you make sure you CC me on the, put
Yes.
me on the CC line, just so I can keep track of what communications have been taking place. All right, Sina.
Yes, a couple of things that I want to kind of, in Temecula, it's not just, I was there the first night when they were installed, and I spoke at midnight to show you the crowd, and my grandson, who is now in college, came back to speak on the issues. And yes, critical race theory is not being part of any, public school curriculum. But the thing is, it also in the conversation that they had in the resolution, they're denying systemic racism. And that anyone teaches that is going to be at risk. It may not be actually written down, but you have teachers now in Temecula, and Great Oak, the school that my grandkids graduated from, has the IB program and obviously the AP. But the IB program is you have to show all different points of view, and they would not allow, obviously, the point of view that hurts or offends, which is what they were saying, the white children. Okay, like somehow the white children are going to blame themselves for slavery. So it's more than just the critical race theory. It is the fear that the teachers have, that obviously it's validated because the superintendent has now been fired. And it's right now we are going for a recall. So I just want to kind of update on that one. There is a recall movement. We haven't, you have to get signatures and all that, but there is a recall for the 3. And my question to you, Samuel, is this. When we were forced, all the school districts, to go by district election, rather than all of the, in other words, all of the unified districts, you would just vote for the 5 members. Okay, now it's done by district, carving out the school district. And I know it was done to hopefully have more of a balance of minority groups. But I have a feeling that it now is allowing these a very hard, a small core group of people to get their candidates elected. And of course, we know it's the Christian right, the Christian nationalists, because most people don't vote for school board unless you're really into it and committed, or there's a hot issue out there, okay? And so when you've divided it now, where I cannot vote to recall if that particular person is not in my district area. I think by doing this, we have enabled small hardcore groups like the Christian nationalists to take over school boards. It's a lot easier than running for election for the whole school district, which is very expensive, where you're going to have a more of a amorphous type of group. And now you can really target, and that's what happened. The church that you mentioned in Temecula, is behind this very much so. And so that's my concern, is how do we, I know we're going to back candidates. When we did this in the past, we said anyone who believes in a separation of church and state, to keep from being partisan. Okay, you believe in, and we did. We got Republicans at that time, obviously mostly Democrats, but there was no criteria that you have to be a certain party label. All you had to do is believe in the separation of church and state. Can we do that now? Is that still a valid argument? Because to me, that is the argument.
Yeah, so so just to break it down to Equality California, we are also a nonpartisan organization. So we just support like pro-equality candidates, and there's certain other issues that we also require to be in support of, like to be pro-choice as well. But we are, you know, a pro-equality organization, so we do only support those candidates at that level. And the primary goal, and it's interesting too, you brought up a separation of church and state. That was one of the Chino Valley School Board was actually sued, and because they were proselytizing. Member Na and Cruz were proselytizing from the dais during school board meetings. So unfortunately, when a good pro-equality majority flipped that district, that school board, they then dropped that lawsuit because the school board was trying to fight it. So but it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to the school district, which is another major issue. And like you were saying too, it goes far beyond. It's about like lowering the quality of public education by adding yet another layer of difficulty to our educators. So it's just making their jobs so much harder. They have to be like, watch what they say. They're walking on eggshells essentially with everything that they say. And, you know, that's hard. That's a tough job. Like that's tough to do that day in and day out, knowing that if you're just trying to help the student, that you could be fired for that the next day. It's ludicrous. And it's honestly pushing out our best educators.
It is, and a lot are leaving now, and Temecula has a very good reputation. And part of the argument that we're trying to get across is that,
Sina, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to cut you off because we're starting to encroach on their IBC time, and I have 4 more hands up. So we have other folks I need to get to, but you're going to be on our committee, so you can raise all these issues with Samuel when we talk next month, and they'll all be a very important part of what we'll be talking about.
Thank you.
Just before I get to the next questions, I want to share something with you all that just came up, and something Sina said. Can you all see this? I didn't have time to copy it off, but it's just an email somebody sent me.
Yes.
If this child was strong enough to survive it, your child is strong enough to learn about it.
I saw that.
And I just thought that
was context, that little girl is like in her late 60s right now. So it's so much closer. It's not in the past, it's living today.
Yeah, and it just speaks volumes about this whole thing of, I don't want my kids to be offended by something that they might learn in school. Okay, Ginny, you're up next.
Okay, I know the governor and the secretary and the attorney general, and also the head of Department of Education had sent a letter to Temecula School District stating that they had to adhere to state law regarding curriculum. And I'm wondering, what, if any, repercussions do we know that could be put upon school districts who fail to do this? I mean, can they cut off funding? What could they possibly do?
Do you want to address that, Samuel?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know, I believe, and Sina, I believe you also would be a great resource on this. But I believe that they're just basically, they have to go back to parental comment again, and they have to continue to collect reviews on that until they approve it, because the books were approved, and it would be a violation of the FAIR Act if they don't implement these books, because these students aren't going to have books in this next school year if they don't do this. So I think it's kind of like wading into kind of like I guess uncharted territory in a bit, but I would definitely have to do some more research on that to better explain that.
Can
Do you
also,
have a list? Do you have a list of those school districts that are in jeopardy in California?
Uh,
California?
So what,
Jenny, we
that's
have
part
a,
of, yeah, that's
Okay.
part of what we're hoping to do with with your organization is to identify like Gail mentioned, like with Bishop, California. So I wasn't aware of that school district. It's very hyper localized, so it makes it easier to track this if we have people all over the state kind of watching these school boards and then sharing
yeah,
that.
as I said, Jenny, we had two in our responses. We our responders identified 220 distinct school districts. And I'm not saying all of those have this problem, but I'm saying that we're going to pull the data out of those 220 to identify exactly which ones they think are problematic. We'll match those up to those who said, and we think we have a current problem. Then we're going to look at, okay, what is your school district that you've identified? And we'll be sending all that. We'll be sending that information to Equality. Susan Carlitz.
I appreciate your attention to this important matter. We have a positive story from Campbell, California, near San Jose. My school district I was paying no attention, never occurred to me, but through Indivisible in Campbell, which is a great way that groups connect. I found out that there were some MAGA candidates for our Campbell Union High School district. Somebody recruited 3 candidates, 3 progressive candidates. My feeling was that these people had children that they considered vulnerable. It was a mix between, there was a lawyer, there was a techie, there was a mother who was active in, in the school. The 3 of them won. Just to bring some positive news and to thank you for this. And we're going to pay more attention to this in our San Jose branch now. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you for sharing.
Sharon.
Thank you. I wondered if any of you have read the book called Dark Money by Jane Mayer. The online book group read it a couple of years ago, and it just was so eye-opening about these huge donors, the Koch brothers, these billionaires, millionaires, and they support not only national candidates that are well known, but little guys. And they set up these kind of shell, supposedly educational nonprofits that they can funnel money into, and then they donate money to these candidates. And we all know that to run for political office, you can't be a poor person or not have money. And so the more money you have, the more you can get advertising and get your name out there. And some people that don't really study things see a name enough time and they'll just vote for them because they say, well, I recognize that name. So that book really opened my eyes to all the background and secret things that go on in politics. I would recommend it. If you don't read the whole thing, at least there's certain parts of it that are very interesting.
Thanks for that, Sharon. And as Samuel was talking earlier about how, how much money is needed, that's one of the things that their organization is going to be working on, is they have a whole separate wing or arm that is working on trying to get contributions and donations. We as an organization cannot make a contribution. They did ask us that initially, and we of course can't do it as an organization, but any of you who would like to make a donation in your own individual name, you're certainly welcome and encouraged to do so if you want to help this cause in a way other than just your sweat. They would certainly appreciate that, I'm sure. I'm not seeing any more hands. Oh, I do. Laura Monin, go ahead. And Samuel, could you put it's Samuel, Gail. I don't, you got Patrick on your brain, dear. Samuel, could you put your email address in the
I must look like a Patrick you recently met. So
Laura, what was your question?
Okay, so I filled out the survey, so I hope Sam has the adjacent town to our town, but it's within our branch. I mean, we have a 3-town branch: La Miranda branch, Lafayette, Orinda, Moraga. So in the last school board election, there was a slate of candidates, magnet candidates that were put up. And this is just a funny aside, talking about money from outside. Ginny Thomas gave money to this slate of candidates. Supreme Court Justice Thomas, and it was right out in the open. She gave, I don't know, it wasn't a lot, but $300, whatever. But we thought, oh boy, people from outside are really interested in getting these candidates on the school board. Number two, I did get the memo, about equality. What is the full name, Samuel, of your group? Equality
California.
California. Okay. I was put down summarily like, oh, we've got no bandwidth. That's always the answer to anything. But October is the meeting where public policy gets a speaker and has a program. And I don't have to go through anybody for that. So I would like to figure out how to structure a meeting, a general meeting, so we could get people interested in this issue before the next election, before we have more problems the next time. So can I contact you, Samuel?
I'd prefer you do it through me.
Okay, I will do it through you, Kathy. Yeah, just to get an idea of questions, breakouts. We usually have breakouts, discussions, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll just mention to everyone, we're more than happy to take this show on the road. So anybody who wants to have us, and if there's any members here from other IBCs, if you would like to do something similar like this, I'm hoping we can still do a statewide all membership webinar sometime in early September. But again, I just wanted to get as much information out there as I could before then, so we can get started on the recruitment aspect of this project before October or November. So
one other thing, the candidates lost. There have been our local newspaper has letters every week about, let's not turn out to be a community that welcomes these kind of people with these signs out, marching outside the elementary school. This is even after the election. But anyway, yeah, so it's there, it's out there everywhere. And, yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Thanks, Laura. And Samuel, we just had a quick question about Quality California. Is it only in California, or is it a nation? My understanding is it's a nationwide organization, but you can go ahead and answer that.
So we have Equality California. We also have Equality California Institute, which is our educational arm. We're primarily focused on California, but we also have under our umbrella is Silver State Equality, which is in Nevada. So they've been doing some great work in working with the divided government there and getting some pro-equality measures passed. So primarily we're focused on Nevada and California at the moment, but we do support, we do have a national policy director who works on bills affecting things nationwide, but at the state level, those are the two states that we have the most active role in.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to cut it off. Jenny has been more than generous. I promised her we'd be done at 3 and it's 10 after, so we're already cutting into their IBC time. And I just really, again, appreciate the LAIBC for allowing us to join in and horn in on your meeting. And I hope you all got a lot of good information about this. I hope you'll all fill out the survey if you haven't done it yet. And please do not hesitate if you think of some questions after we sign off. Please feel free to send them to me at publicpolicy.aaw-ca.com. And I will get right back to you, I promise. And if you're not part of the LAIBC, you're welcome to go ahead and leave the meeting at this time. And I think they're going to take up with their business meeting. And Jenny, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we close?
Really appreciate. I just really appreciate the time that you two took to spend with us. I mean, it's been very enlightening. We did the survey in our branch, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and finding out what we can do about this. It's more than local, it's more than national, it's international, as we've seen. The right wing is taking over, and I'm a little bit pessimistic and thinking the pendulum is swinging back a little from more pro-democratic tendencies, progressive tendencies to the other extreme. So I don't know, we got to do what we can to fight it. So hopefully we will.
This is what we can do.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to give it back to Suzanne. Thank you guys for being on, and thanks for all of the AAUW members not part of LACIC. We were glad to host you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the time. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and CC Kathy.
Great. Thank you, Samuel.
Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Thank you. You're muted, Deanna.
Forgot. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can start again.